fall anime season has always struck me as the weirdest of the 4 seasons. It's not fresh like a New Year's winter season, and doesn't usually hold the hot new releases like summer and, more recently, spring do. Its claim to fame seems to just be that it's the last anime season of the calendar year, the reason you have to keep a couple spots open on your Anime of the Year list. But in 2020, that's honestly good enough. If it means we're almost through this awful year, then by all means bring on the fall anime. And within that pile of new shows, Jujutsu Kaisen appears to have quite a lot of potential. There's a lot of sequels for series I have not watched, and a couple shows I've mentioned in other videos. Not a ton that has really caught my eye, to be honest. But we're here to talk about openings, and for that, as usual, there is undeniable quality. In fact, there might be too much quality this season. There was a brief moment while I was researching that I considered breaking new ground on a top 20, and while I didn't do that, we do still have an unprecedented top 16 this season. It's hard to say whether or not this season surpasses my personal favorite season, Winter 2019, in quality at the top. I don't think it does, but it's certainly one of the deepest seasons I can remember. All the honorable mentions could have warranted some level of discussion on my end, and even the openings you guys never see here, the ones that get cut before I even script, were actually mostly decent this season, if unspectacular. So yes, for once, I am quite happy with the amount of good openings we got in fall. In addition, something that I thought was sorely missed in summer was that we didn't have any fun openings. And that flipped completely with there being 5 I'd classify that way this season. There's also an opening that is literally just a Windows screensaver. It is not on the list, but I wanted you all to see it. As far as actual honorable mentions go, I had 7 of them this fall, with Irregular at Magic High School and Moriarty originally making the list before I cut them upon review. To quickly touch on a couple of these, I cannot stop rewatching the Hypnosis Mic OP for just how fun the different rapping styles are, and apparently Shadowverse has the big bucks to get Penguin Research in spring and now Flow in fall. Absolutely ridiculous. Overall, it was a good song-heavy section this season, with Moriarty being the only one I'd praise for its visuals. I also wanted to quickly shout out the Burn the Witch ED, which is great, but is not an OP. Given that the show didn't have an opening, I wanted to throw it in here somehow. But after I just spent more than a few minutes hyping up the season, why don't we actually take a look at the top openings of fall. Consider this the first of the fun openings I just mentioned. It's also our first surprise of the season, with this show currently being watched by about 2,500 people on Maon. Yet it hits us with this cute, exciting ska display. I wouldn't say it lights the world on fire, but the designs are all very nice and colorful, with the song doing a lot of the heavy lifting. I do really like this rainbow slide and the occasional 90s looking background though. Honestly, this could have just been an honorable mention, but it's not every day I get to talk about a ska opening, so here we are. No, where are you going? Come back. I'm serious. This opening is shot like an actual music video, and I think that's what I find most appealing about it. We're fairly used to openings being sung by the characters at this point, and I mean for an idol show, it's a must. But seeing the actual singing so well animated is a nice surprise, especially with how good the CG looks towards the end. Add another small bonus for those suit shots and you really got something here. Still, I'm not a huge fan of idol group music like this, so the song doesn't do too much for me, but the visuals are clean enough that I'm still mostly pleased with what this iteration of Love Live has given us. Oh boy, it's my favorite time of the year, where I get to be pretty lukewarm on a new Haikyuu opening. If you don't already know, I've fairly notoriously never watched Haikyuu, and I'm guessing that's why these late season openings don't hit as hard for me. Overall, I feel the same about Topako as I did about Phoenix. It's a solid shonen template opening, but it's lacking a lot of the imagery of the earlier openings in the series. The throwback to Hinata practicing against the wall in middle school at the beginning is a really nice touch though. And I also like the artistic choice of not showing the players' faces in the first half. It's the most unique thing this opening does. But I've said before that I'm not a huge fan of openings that come off as just a scene from the show set to music, and that's how this entire chorus feels for me. That 3D shot of Hinata is great, but everything else is bland. Not having the burnout syndromes do the opening is throwing me off a bit, but everyone's favorite Naruto ED band Super Beaver still nailed it with a song that does fit the series really well. All in all, it's still a good opening, even if it's not super unique. Major Second has returned after a surprise appearance at 13 back in spring and a lengthy delay during the summer. In spring, a killer song carried the show, but this time it's a bit more balanced. The song for fall is Shiroi Doro by Mone Kamishiraishi. I think it has a nice beat, a solid supporting bass line throughout, and fits the visuals well. But that's not really what I want to mention here. I'm not sure if anyone recognized the name, probably not because I butchered it, but Kamishiraishi is the voice of Mitsuha from Your Name. This has absolutely no bearing on how I rated this, but that fact absolutely floored me. She's more of an actress and a singer than a voice actor, and actually just released a new album with this song on it back on August 26th. But to return to the topic at hand, visually this has a lot of the same issues I just stated about Haikyuu. I think much of it is the usual sports stuff, but there's clearly an emotional undertone here where it ties in with the show. What vaulted it one spot ahead of Haikyuu is that I adore the chorus section with all the paint splatters. It's incredibly colorful and fun, and given that the title of the song is White Mud, I think it plays quite a nice contrast here. Being overwhelmingly sportsy holds it back, but I was very impressed from what we saw from Major Second over the course of this entire year. This is already our third opening so far sung by a character from the show, and as always, Inori Minase does not disappoint. Minase voices the titular princess Aurora in the show, and while she may be most well known as the voice of Rem in ReZero, she also has a staggering amount of anime songs under her belt already, with over 30 combined OP, ED, and insert songs in her catalog. This isn't exactly a song I'd slam on repeat in my everyday life, but it has its charm and it's really good for this specific show. But it's the visuals that are the reason this is at 12. They fall into the category I like to call, what is going on? There's so much on screen all the time with very few breaks. That's why I love it. That section just after the title card is a perfect example, with the transitions from bare heartbeat to spinning head to rainbow treasure chest all happening in about 5 seconds. I also really enjoy all the video game references they make throughout. The parts that aren't completely off the wall are shot similar to a music video, and I quite like that as well. It's fun, it's creative, and the song works well enough to make it a complete package. Welcome to our most chaotic opening of the season. A lot of good and a lot of not as good. It starts out with some very strong horns that I thought were leading into a great jazz line, but it's actually an idol group song. I think the song is fun, but the more times I've listened to it, the less I've enjoyed it, so take that as you will. The distinctiveness here comes from the wacky visuals. There's a very strong use of color throughout, mainly because of the rainbow assortment of clothing our main boys wear. The single color shots with no background are a nice change of pace as well. It also has some of the best credit usage of the season, working them flawlessly into every scene. Still, the ultimate highlight doesn't appear until 37 seconds in. That Take On Me homage is one of the most unique things I've ever seen in an opening. I love it. I do not remember many, if any, Western music video references in openings I've seen. It's basically solely responsible for this being at 11 instead of 15 or something. It makes me smile every single time I watch it. Now, the reason this isn't a higher is mostly that chorus. The song is fine, and I like the distinct items in the background for each brother, but it's just so repetitive. And after how much creativity they showed in other parts, it's kind of disappointing. Still plenty of good here to land it at 11, but I can't help thinking that there was just a little more potential left on the table here. Adachi and Shimamura gives us the rare example of the OP with ED visuals, but that doesn't make it any less beautiful. Where the opening lacks an overall movement, it makes up for in color and background. Some of these shots have absolutely gorgeous skies, and the water looks pretty good too. My personal favorite section is the mirrored sky part that then turns into a sunrise / shot from Evangelion. Given the show's themes, it also has parts that struck me as kind of a light version of the Bloom Into You opening, if I'm being honest. The song is a catchy original sung by our two main characters, and your random fun fact is that the voice of Adachi is Akari Kito, who also voices Nezuko in Demon Slayer. So there's that. The horns are the hook for me musically, and I really like the synth turntable sort of sound used for the breakdown. It's not a song I'd go hollering to my friends about, but it's delightful to listen to. Overall, this just makes me feel warm and cozy while I watch it, and I greatly appreciate that. I'm going to be upfront about this. I think this is one of, if not the best song of the season. I have been listening to it non-stop on Spotify, and it pains me that the visuals made me put it at 9. I've been a pretty big fan of Nanawa Akari for a couple years now, ever since she released Instant Heaven with Eve, and it's really nice to see her show up in a couple of shows this year. She did the ED for Science Fell in Love, So I Tried to Prove It back in winter, and now this OP here in fall. Her only other opening is from back in 2018 for Happy Sugar Life, with that song, One Room Sugar Life, being my second favorite song of hers, with Instant Heaven being number 1. Until now. Hire's High is so good. Just the guitar lines in the song are enough to make me want to listen to it again. The rhythm guitar is very, very solid, and the lead guitar just goes off and does whatever it wants for most of the song. There are like 3 different guitar solos that aren't even actually guitar solos because there are vocals over them, but I can't stop listening to it. The BPM is off the wall, as is the norm for Nanamo's songs, and her vocals are crisp and fantastic, cutting through a fairly hefty mix. I also really need to come up with a word for when the song drops the instrumental and just has a lyric right before coming back in full for the chorus, but I don't have one, so that's what this song does. The lead into the chorus plus the chorus just hits so hard. The song is so good that it has this effect where it makes me think the visuals are better than they are. For the most part, they're fairly bland character shots plus some action. But with the song, I'm like, look at those planes, look at those poses, I'm having so much fun! Unironically, I actually really like this shot where they zoom in on the pilots and color code them, and I'm kind of mad it's on screen for less than half a second. But that's enough time spent on the number 9 opening of this season. Just go listen to the full song, you won't be disappointed. So this is a first for me. I have never been this surprised at a genre switch in an opening. For the first 40 seconds or so, it's a fairly slow ballad-like song, before a beat starts picking up the tempo for about 20 seconds, leading us into a legitimately really good drop. I cannot say enough about how off guard this caught me. Like, this is the best EDM opening of the season somehow? I don't know how that happened, but I love it. And for those scoring at home, Akari Kito is back as a feature on this song as she voices one of the main characters here as well. Visually, it actually really reminds me a bit of Twin Star Exorcist OP3, which is probably why I like it so much. The back and forth is very quick and fun, and a really good concept to build that section of the opening around. The first 40 seconds or so don't do too much for me outside of there being raindrop noises in sync with the raindrops on screen, but that section does make the second half hit a lot harder. The pink and blue aesthetic is nice, the actual content on screen is very cute, and I do love a good fourth wall break. Tonikawa doesn't provide overwhelming power in any specific area, but it's still quite a strong contender in a very stacked season. This is where the tier break is in my mind this season, which I guess means I could have just done a top 7 and called it a day, but I'm extra, I apologize. Moving on. This has been a very hard opening for me to really place this season. It was up at 3 at one point, I dropped it a bit, and now I've settled on a nice little place here at 7. I rated it so favorably at the start because it was such a surprise, unique opening. Most of the openings we have left are from heavy hitters, but I was not expecting the show about washed-up gymnasts to pull out all the stops like this. They really make it feel like an event, with that flashy title card and all the bright neon throughout. I love how they integrated all the credits into the backgrounds and signs, and every shot just radiates fun. My favorite parts are when they mess with the colors and give us a solid background. The song is performed by the VAs, and Fall has just been overwhelmed with openings sung by characters from their show. This is the 6th one so far, and to spoil the surprise, the 6th one overall. Combined with the visuals, it really makes this feel like a music video of sorts, and I really like that. The extra hook here is that Tetsuo, the guy in blue, is voiced by Yuki Kaiji. So if you needed to get your Eren rapping fix before the final season of Attack on Titan, here it is. Still, I think some of the visuals wind up being a bit too stationary for my liking, which is what dropped it to 7. But that's really a nitpick more than anything. Taiso Samurai is fun, energetic, and makes me want to put on a leotard. This radiates massive Death Note OP2 energy, but isn't quite that over the top. The song is Steel by indie hip-hop group Spark Sound Show, and if you think it's wild, you should check out the rest of the music they've released this year because it's by far one of their more normal songs. But for our purposes, it is certainly a more out-there song this season, and easily the loudest one we've gone over. Still, I quite like it in the context of Akudama. What makes this opening so good is the amount of impressive individual shots they packed into the whole thing. Since the theme here is all the main characters, every single one gets their own shot 5 or 6 times. The weapon shots, the poses, the individual shots, the turnaround shots, the silhouettes, and finally the graffiti shots at the end. All of those shots are good, and then they're all multiplied by 7, meaning that they don't even get a whole lot of time to shine. I mean, they even gave the executioners a really cool section with great poses. The graffiti and neon color palette only elevate this style-wise, and I love what they did with the physical credits. If I had to choose one section that's my favorite, it's probably the silhouettes. I thought they were backstories at first, but I think they might actually be death premonitions. I'm honestly not entirely sure, but it looks great either way. There is also a second version of the opening, but it just has a different color scheme and slightly more neon. All in all, Akudama doesn't have quite the musical hook to get into the top 5, but it is still the first truly great opening of Fall. Welcome back, Black Clover, and more importantly, welcome back, Black Clover does not have a bad opening. This opening came out back in September, and without the COVID delays would have been in summer, but now Black Clover is off the usual seasonal rotation, so it's here in fall. Right off the bat, I like it a lot more than Stories. There's a lot more movement and color usage. There's also something really distinct about the visuals here as a whole. The 3D effect really hits different, and is some of the best CG usage I've seen in an opening to date. It's not jarring, but it's clear enough that it creates an improved depth perception and a more fluid camera during the action shots. I'm guessing it was an aesthetic choice, and I actually quite like it. As far as more specifics go, I love the captain shots towards the beginning and the whole action sequence during the chorus. Also, hey look, it's the shot from Silhouette again! For some reason, the Black Clover logo popping in there at the end is very satisfying, and I do not know why. I think Everlasting Shine is a good song. I really like the acoustic guitar backing, and if nothing else, it's cool to see this big of a band do a Black Clover opening. If you don't know, the bands Tomorrow X Together, or TXT, are a fairly popular K-pop group under the same label as BTS. For some context, this opening isn't even in their top 5 of most listened to songs on Spotify, which, given the viewership of Black Clover, is significant. It's also not my favorite TXT song, by a good number, but I think it's matched well with these visuals. Now for Black Clover as a whole, I do hope they go back to their roots when these anime original arcs end, but I don't mind the current boy band takeover, and if it keeps happening, I can't keep saying it doesn't fit the catalog. Still, I do miss my wailing electric guitars or crazy piano lines a little bit. I admittedly hold Black Clover to a pretty high standard at this point, and this is a great opening, but that's probably why I put it here at 5. Back in summer, it would have been 3 or 4 probably, but the important thing here is that the quality has not dropped 12 openings in. And while this is lacking a bit of visual style, I still think it's the best looking opening we've gotten so far, so I'm more than ready to see what lucky number 13 gives us very soon. It's sort of been overshadowed by the show's ED, justifiably, but this is still one of the best openings of the season. First off, Eve is my king and I request he be respected. I've been on the Eve train since 2017, and to finally see him not only get an opening, but this high profile of an opening is incredible to see. Hopefully this opens the floodgates and he'll get many more opportunities like this. He's got a new EP coming out on December 23rd and this song is on it, so here's hoping for a chart-topping success. Now my biggest takeaway from the actual song is that it sounds very Eve. He has such a distinct voice that I think really controls any song he's in, and this is the case here. Now that is not to say I don't love the instrumentals either. That guitar riff during the title card and the muted sound during the first half of the verse are both very good. I particularly like the intro's sort of rev up and pause, as it's a unique way to start the song and makes that riff all the better. Visually, they also use sort of the same style that Black Clover used, just to a lesser extent. There is some excellent depth of field here, and it all just looks very clean. Kinda annoying that most of the shots are just character shots, but at least they look really good. Especially that one of Kurosaki walking out from the shade. I really like that one. Of course, I would be remiss to not mention Parkour Panda, as that has taken the community by storm this season. He is moving! That section during the chorus is good and how it sort of drops a bunch of relevant imagery on us, but I do wish it was a bit slower. Honestly, I'm not super overwhelmed by the stylistic choices here. I just think everything looks just about as crisp as you could get in an opening. It still has a lot of that first opening of a long-running shonen feel to it. There's a lot of just, wow, I wonder who that character is or what that shot meant, until it's ultimately a plot point from the season. That's enough negativity though. I really like this opening as a whole, even if it didn't sound like it, and it very easily gets me excited to watch a new episode every week. More Eve openings, please, and hopefully more seasons of Jujutsu as well. So this one's kinda weird. Great Pretender should have been in the summer video, but because of Netflix's weird release schedule, I completely forgot that it was technically a summer show. So here we are acting like this is in fall because the show ended in September. If for whatever reason you have a desire to know what the rankings would have looked like if I had been competent at this, well, just subtract a 1 from every opening before this and throw this at number 3 in summer. Great Pretender suffers from the same gift yet curse that all the Netflix shows seem to have, where it's incredibly unique and beautiful and also only a minute long. We have our only real jazz opening of the fall, but it is a wonderful time with a strong bass line, a great horn section, and solos galore. The saxophone solo is great, but I am partial to the trumpet solo because I am biased. It really invokes a sense of intrigue and spy stuff, and it is the best song to show fit of the season. The visuals are wonderfully unique, and those transitions are something special. They're the lifeblood that makes this whole thing coherent. I mean, just look at a few of these. Pull in the coffee cup, park in the slideshow, watch indoors, and my personal favorite, plane in the more plane. The opening knows what its distinct visual style is, and it absolutely kills it throughout all of these scenes. The colors are vibrant, the silhouettes pop off the backgrounds, and it really uses the whole spectrum of color here, giving us easily the most beautiful opening of the season. I bumped it down a bit because I wish it was longer, but the minute we are provided was a masterclass on how to differentiate yourself through your opening. A Netflix opening has yet to really disappoint me this year, and I really hope they keep this up moving forward. One last surprise before we get to number 1. Last season I made a pretty big deal about how flawless the transitions were in Spark Again, and Needle Knot picks up right where that left off. Sure, I just praised Great Pretender for its transitions as well, but IWGP quite literally builds this entire opening around how ridiculous they can make their transitions. Normally this is where I just list off a bunch of them and you'd see them on screen, but there are too many. Every single scene flows right into the next one. It's incredible. The actual style isn't bad either, focusing on the colors of the gangs and the video's streaming angle. Shot composition is solid, and the action at the end isn't half bad either. The uniquest thing about it is that the show bleeds into the intro every episode, and while that makes it tough to rate, it's still really cool whenever they do it. Just really great stuff from a show very few people are watching. The Pinballs provide the music, and their song Blues of Shichiten Bateau has been a jam for a while now, and we're gonna just ignore that it was for a bad anime. I'm not sure how good Ikebukuro is going to be, but regardless, please get the pinballs on more openings. We need as much pure rock as we can get these days. Needle Knot has a great hook in its main guitar riff and a great driving guitar line during the verses. Takayuki Furukawa's voice provides great energy and is fantastic during the chorus. This is nothing too off the wall musically, but it's just a really solid rock song that's very distinctly the Pinballs sound. Put a great rock song with some unique, great looking visuals, and you got yourself the number 2 opening of the season. The absolute Mad Lads finally did it. They made an OP2 that's actually as good as the OP1. Torch of Liberty not only checks off all the boxes of what I now want from a Fire Force opening, it checks off all the boxes of what I want from an anime opening, period. And per usual, number 1 on that list is Kanabun. I've talked enough about Kanabun in the past at this point. You thought I wasn't going to put a Kanabun song on the list. Oh hey, it's a Kanabun song. My hero benefiting greatly from the Kanabun boost here. But just a reminder that they're great, all their music is great, go support them. This song in particular has a special place in my heart already because it's the perfect fusion of their more cheery sound and their more guitar-focused songs, similar to how I feel about Silhouette. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it does in my head. Think like a combo of Star Marker and Fighter, if that means anything to you. Anyway, that opening guitar lick is the thing of dreams, and honestly the lead guitar is kinda wildin' for the entire song. The guitar solo in the full version is so good, and I know that doesn't count here, but I just needed you to know. I could gush about Kanabun's sound and composition all day, but the important thing here, and the reason I finally get to put a Kanabun song at number 1, are those fiery visuals. The first thing you'll notice is that they changed the color of the fire from bright orange to a more light red. This doesn't really matter, but it's both odd and cool at the same time. Once again, the fire is very well animated, particularly in that shot of the first pillar. It just looks so pretty. The opening is also a great later stage shonen opening, kind of the opposite of what Jujutsu is. Instead of having to set up characters, they're able to just give everyone their own unique shots, just based on what we already know about them. Yes, I know this is kind of an excuse for me putting an opening that's mostly character shots at number 1, but come on, look how cool and distinct these character shots are. I'm sort of joking, but honestly, I do really like all these shots. Even the Tamaki one looks good, even if it ignites my fight-or-flight response. It also definitely doesn't take itself seriously at all. I mean, look at this shot. There's a good mix of comedy and seriousness here, surely a first for the series as a whole. They really turned the animation dial to 11 for the chorus though, and while yes, it is them fighting a giant infernal again, that shot of everybody attacking in slow motion is just too good to complain about. Burns doing this at the end is a nice capper, and I look forward to them once again baiting us with a fight that won't happen. You hear that spark again? That's me calling you out. Honestly, this opening makes Mayday even weirder, as Fire Force has now given us 3 number 1 openings, and an opening I don't like that much visually. What happened during the second core of Season 1? Where did the budget go? Regardless, Torch of Liberty does give Fire Force Season 2 the sweep here, and 2 of my top 3 openings for all of 2020. Those fellows over at David Production know how to craft a great opening. Unfortunately, we don't yet know if or when there will be a Fire Force Season 3. So for right now, Fire Force will have to take a step back as not only the only series I've given 2 number 1 spots to, but now 3. I have no idea what 2021 is going to bring, but if 2020 could still have this many killer openings, then I'm certain 2021 is going to have some bangers. Thank you guys for watching. I'm back to doing these with my actual voice instead of just text, just changing things up. This probably won't be my last video of 2020, but since it's the last seasonal opening video, I just wanted to thank you guys again for a great year. I know it wasn't for me and basically everyone else IRL, but it's been a wild year for the channel. Back in January, we were at just 80 subs, and now as we roll into December, that number just ticked over to 1,500. So that's pretty rad. I've been doing these dumb seasonal opening videos for 2 full years now, with the first one being in fall 2018, and it's crazy to see people continue to turn up and not get that angry at my bad opinions. As I said earlier, I have no idea what 2021 will bring. Certainly not a video release schedule, but if anything, hopefully I can get all 4 seasonal videos out in the actual season they're for. First time for everything. Beyond that, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at BeMoreBrass, all that. And hopefully the last month of this hell year goes your way. Thank you again for making my year much better than it would have been otherwise, and hopefully these videos were able to provide you with even a few minutes of entertainment throughout the year. That's all from me for now. I hope you had a good time, and I'll see you around.